All right, today we're going to dig into a really fascinating book called The Blueprint System by Andrew Gard. And it puts forward this pretty radical idea. What if being human isn't just this random, chaotic thing? What if we're actually designed systems with a specific blueprint for how we're supposed to run?
Okay, so let's just dive right into the deep end here. The book kicks off with a really powerful question. It reframes all those things we experience, anxiety, that nagging confusion, that feeling of being at war with yourself. It suggests, what if those aren't just feelings? What if they're actually signals? Like an error message from your internal operating system telling you, hey, something's not right here. Something is structurally out of whack.
So, if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, the whole point of understanding this system is to get to this state the author calls structural coherence. Just think about that for a second. A state where your heart, your mind, your soul, and everything you do are all working together in perfect harmony, just like they were designed to. That's the end game here. That's the whole point of this user's guide to being human. All right, so first things first, let's really get our heads around this core concept. This idea that we're not just a collection of parts, but a fully integrated, self-regulating system, and that it was all designed with a purpose. So here's the central claim of the book. We are not random. The author argues that just like an ecosystem or a solar system, we operate according to a kind of hidden architecture. And this is a huge shift in thinking, right? Because it means when things feel off, it's not necessarily a moral failure, it's a structural problem. I love this analogy he uses. Think of an engineer listening to a machine making a weird rattling noise. The noise isn't the problem itself, it's just a symptom that something deeper is misaligned. Okay, so let's pop the hood on this human system and take a look at the components. How does this thing actually work? What are the core parts of our inner operating system? Well, right at the very top, the absolute foundation of everything is what the book calls the ordering principle. You can think of this as the source code for reality itself. It's the set of fundamental, unchangeable laws that govern everything in the universe, from how a galaxy spins to how our own bodies function. This is the ultimate blueprint. Now, that's a pretty big concept, so how do we stay aligned with it? Well, according to the author, we've all got a built-in management system, or BMS for short. This is our own personal internal diagnostic tool. It's running 24/7, constantly monitoring our thoughts, our choices, our actions, and it gives us feedback through signals. That feeling of peace, that's feedback. That pang of guilt, that's feedback too. And here's where this idea gets really, really practical. Think about the management system in a big, modern building, right? It's monitoring the temperature, the security, the lights. If a door is left unlocked or the AC breaks, an alert goes off. Our internal BMS does the exact same thing, but our alerts are emotions. A deep sense of peace is basically a system-wide message saying, all systems are go, you're aligned. But that jolt of anxiety, that's a blaring alarm telling you that you've deviated from the blueprint. And you know what's wild? At its absolute core, this whole system runs on a simple binary logic, like a computer. Every single choice we make, no matter how big or small, it's like flipping a switch. It's either a 1, on, moving us towards alignment with our design, or it's a 0, off, moving us away from it. That's it. So naturally, if we're running like an operating system, we're gonna have bugs, right? Glitches, errors, you name it. So how do you debug yourself? Well, the book lays out a really practical, step-by-step process to do just that. It's called the 4-step realignment process. Step 1, you just recognize the distortion. That means you actually have to acknowledge that signal, that feeling of unease. Don't ignore it. Step 2, you evaluate the choice that caused it. What was the 0 that you just flipped? Step 3, implement a correction. You actively adjust your behavior or your thinking. And step 4, and this is crucial, you maintain that alignment. You keep reinforcing the right choice until it becomes the new normal, the new default setting. And for those times when there's a really big system error, a major crash, the book points to an indispensable tool, forgiveness. Now, it's not talking about forgiveness as just some nice, fuzzy feeling. It's framed as a functional error reset mechanism. It's basically the human system's Control-Alt-Delete. Think about it. Holding on to resentment is like having a program stuck in an infinite loop, just eating up all your system resources. Forgiveness is the command that you consciously execute to break that loop and restore normal function. There's this fantastic story in the book that just nails this point. It's about a guy named Michael who is just being eaten alive by resentment for his coworker, Daniel. And when he finally makes the choice to forgive, he has this huge realization. The act of mercy wasn't for Daniel. It wasn't about letting him off the hook. It was for Michael. It was the only way to purge the poison that was corrupting his own system. Okay, so every good system needs a user manual, right? The author actually proposes a really interesting framework that uses two very well-known ancient texts to outline the operational rules for our human system. It's a two-part framework. On one hand, you have the 10 Commandments. The book presents these as the protective rails on the highway. They're the hard boundaries designed to stop you from driving off a cliff, to prevent a total, catastrophic system breakdown. Then, you have the Beatitudes. These are described as the alignment systems. They aren't about just avoiding disaster. They're about optimizing for peak performance. They're about tuning up the engine and strengthening your entire inner framework. And to make this even more tangible, the author actually lays out a kind of diagnostic formula. It's moral risk equals pressure divided by protection. Simple, right? Pressure is all the external stuff: stress, fear, temptation. Protection is your internal strength, your integrity, your courage, your character. So the Beatitudes in this model are basically tools that you use to actively increase your protection so you can handle more pressure. So this is all great in theory, but how do we actually apply this in the real world, moment to moment? Well, the book gives us a super practical tool for this, and it's called the moral dashboard. Just like the dashboard in your car gives you a quick read on speed, fuel, and engine temp, this moral dashboard has 6 key meters you can check at any time. You've got your temptation meter, your conscience meter, guidance, emotion, environment, and your spiritual meter. The idea is you can do a quick mental scan of these to get a real-time diagnostic of where you're at. So let's make this real, just for a second right now. Which of your meters is blinking red? Which one is highest? Is your environment meter off the charts because of where you are? Or is your emotion meter running hot? Seriously, just pausing to notice which meter is the most active can give you incredible insight into what needs your attention. All right, so let's bring this all home. What's the ultimate goal? What does it actually look like, and more importantly, feel like, to live in complete coherence with this blueprint? It all comes back to that key idea we started with: structural coherence. It's that state of deep, unshakable inner peace. It's when your thoughts, your values, your emotions, and what you do, they're not fighting each other anymore. They're all flowing in the exact same direction, operating as one single, harmonious system, perfectly aligned with the way you were designed to be. And so that leaves us with one last really powerful question to walk away with. If your life really is a system, one that's designed for harmony and coherence, what is the one choice? It could be tiny. It could be huge. What's that one thing you could do today to debug just one little error, to reduce a bit of that internal friction and bring your own system into just a little more alignment?